really robustly with the Cyberspace Solarium Commission and the work they did. And secondly, possibly more importantly, I was the one who knew that Tinkerbell was the Chihuahua's name. So, there you go. All right, and now for the final talk of the evening. And as a reminder, please join us at 5:35 in the Expo for the welcome reception sponsored by True Ops. Meet us tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. for the run at the Casitas Courtyard. And of course, be here tomorrow morning again for our opening keynotes, which include my fireside chat that I'm privileged to have with Assistant Secretary for Cybersecurity from DHS. So don't want to miss that. Next up, we have Chad Koslow, the CEO at Ridge IT, who will be talking on why our approach to cybersecurity eventually fails and leads to a breach. Know what you don't know. Now, Chad Koslow is co-founder and CEO of Ridge IT Cyber, which is a cybersecurity firm founded to leverage the technical knowledge and insights that he and his partner gained around complex enterprise systems while supporting the Department of Defense and intelligence community customers. They developed their vision of cloud, zero trust, and overall cybersecurity architecture to address modern-day threats and issues faced by commercial and federal organizations throughout the world. Ridge IT Cyber has since grown to serve customer clients in 160 countries across 6 continents, with over 500,000 users protected. With the implementation of over 1,000 zero trust-related projects and architectures in the past 3 years alone, Ridge has shifted the focus for our clients from compliance-based security to battle-tested systems and IT modernization. So please help me welcome Chad to the stage. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, too.
What a great first day at Infosec. I had a lot of wonderful conversations with many of you guys. Looking forward to tomorrow, continuing this conversation about cybersecurity. We're all here for one reason, trying to protect our organization, our companies, so we can continue to operate, do business, serve our customers, and everything. As I was introduced, I'm Chad Koslow, CEO at Ridge IT Cyber. A little bit about my background. I spent 10 years inside the intelligence community and DoD, building and maintaining complex systems to support the global war on terror, before going out and co-founding Ridge IT. We have since then grown it into a global managed cybersecurity firm with customers in 160 different countries across 6 continents. One of our big claims to fame is over the last 3 years alone, we've worked on 1,000 zero trust related projects. We have been recently named to the Inc. 500 list as one of the fastest growing companies inside of America, coming in at 6 in security and #1 under managed cybersecurity. So what I'm here today to talk about is basically why our security programs are going to eventually fail and lead to a breach. It's a pretty ominous statement when you think about it. But really, if you peel it back, we all know it's not if, it's when we're going to face a breach. And everything we do today as cybersecurity professionals is to push that breach out another day, week, month, years. So all we're doing is fighting to buy more time. And why is that? What are our challenges? What's plaguing us inside our environments? Well, unfortunately, our users, our assets, our systems are located around the world. So when you think about that, they're open, in many cases 100%. Maybe you're fortunate enough to cut off access to a handful of them, but you still have a wide exposure, which basically means your attack surface is the entire world. So when you think about that and peel it back another layer, we have the threat landscape right now. It's ever changing. And tomorrow's going to be a new day, and with a new day, it's going to be a new threat. Right now we face challenges and attacks from adversaries from nation states, hacktivists, disgruntled people, and as we all know, anyone with an internet connection, some Bitcoin, and maybe a credit card. Right now we're facing ransomware as a service platform for a couple of Satoshi. You can subscribe to it, get a highly effective program to just launch on everyone. Eventually someone's going to fall prey to that. And at that point, they get to capitalize, ransom, they get paid, and they move on to the next person. We're also facing highly enriched social engineering programs. For the low price of $29.95, I can find out everything about you on a monthly basis, about your company, your background, who you associate. From there, I can launch a highly sophisticated and motivated attack on your inside your environment. We also have the human element that we all have to work with. We all know our people, our customers, our employees are obviously our greatest asset inside our organization, but we also understand they are our greatest weakness. That's why we all go through our Know Before training, we go through our brown bag luncheons, and we constantly try to instill and shift some of the burden of, hey, we're all in cybersecurity together, how do we make this better as a team? But the problem is, and to give you an example, not 2 months ago, I got a phone call from an alleged financial institution, one that I bank at, and they said, hey, by the way, there was a breach. We moved a section of money out of it, but don't worry, we were able to block some of your financial transfer coming out of your organization. And at first, my spidey senses went off, and as you all should, and it's like, hey, this doesn't seem legit. However, I'm on the phone, I don't feel like calling back and waiting on hold for an hour to find someone, so we just went through this. At that point, he says, since we're on a phone line, I can't ask you for your social security number, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you all about your accounts and everything else so I can verify that I am who I say I am, and then he'll be prepared to talk about the breach and how much money I left and what our next steps are. So I engaged in the conversation, and we went down the list, and he knew everything about everything. And then he hit a final point, and he's like, and I see you mostly access your accounts through a Mac device and your iPhone, and that's when I knew. And I hung up, and I said, whew, he had me go in there for a second, still wasn't gonna give him any information, but I don't use Apple devices, so I knew for a fact. So while he was going in for the close, he made that one mistake. But vast majority of people out here use Apple devices, so maybe you're not so fortunate. But you know what the first thing I did after I hung up that phone? Ran upstairs, logged on, checked my account, see if my money was still there. I was prepared to call because he was so confident, and he was in a call center with another 50 people calling, where I'm like, maybe this could be legit, but I'll still call back to the organization and see. That is what our front line is facing right now. Think about it, our help desk, the service arm of IT that's directly facing our users, where their job is to serve your customer base. And they have to defend against that. And, I'm trained just like you guys are. I know more about my life than you guys do. So how do you overcome that when someone else can come in, be so convincing to force a violation of policy, a password reset, or to tunnel into a device, so on and so forth? That's a lot of pressure to put on our front line inside the IT service industry. And then finally, we have the complexity of our enterprise. Long are gone are the days 20 years ago where we had the hub and spoke model of networking, the castle and moat, the advent of cloud. We all started to shift workloads up to the cloud. And at that point, our perimeter, we started to poke holes in it. And in some cases, we dissolved our perimeter altogether. So how did we answer that? Well, let's bolt on another tool and another tool. And we all know as you add more things to the equation, complexity goes up. As complexity goes up, you introduce more points of failure, more points of misconfiguration, just more things to look at, to manage, so on and so forth. And so then came about the idea of, hey, zero trust. Maybe that's the answer to all our problems, everything that ails us. How can we do both? Improve our cybersecurity operations while at the same time increasing our security. Our goal would be, let's move past the notion of, hey, you're on a corporate device, you're an authenticated user, I trust you, you have full reign to everything. Our plan was, we're gonna go in, I don't care if you're on a corporate device, I don't care if you're authenticated, I'm gonna challenge and verify you the entire way to a very specific application. And even when I let you on that application, I'm gonna give you a small subset of data. So in case I'm wrong, I've limited the blast radius of that breach to the smallest amount possible. And that was our answer. But even our answer to what was plaguing us is still victim to the very same thing. And it's simply, we just don't know what we don't know. And I can promise you, you don't want to find out during or after a breach. I just spent the last couple of minutes talking about we can't trust our users. We can't trust our devices. We can't trust our own network. But you know who we do trust in the entire process? Gartner, Forrester, our cybersecurity vendors, their white papers, our implementation teams, our design teams, our O&M teams. We trust all that on our journey to zero trust. And we have no idea whether we should or not. Again, we just don't know what we don't know. And I think that's actually what's plaguing us in cybersecurity. And I think our entire approach is actually flawed and very, very dated. And why is that? Well, go back 25, 30 years, and what was our answer to everything? Hey, look, we have a problem, we have a weakness. What do? We go out and we procure a solution. We implement it, we deploy it, we build that wall, we build it tall, we build it thick, and then we go out and we monitor it. When someone goes around that wall, we get another tool, and we do the same process over and over again. What has that gotten us? Well, I can't wake up in the morning without seeing a brand new breach on TV. I can't go collect my mail out of my mailbox without a brand new letter saying, hey, maybe your information was exposed in a vulnerability we found, but don't worry, you get one free credit report a year. Like right now, I need about 20 this year alone. That's just not sustainable when you think about it. Each breach is getting more expensive and more information is being released out there. So you have to ask yourself, what is the breach that your organization, your company isn't going to come back from? Me, I'm personally worried about destructive-based attacks. Right now, there are 4 nation states with the confirmed capability of launching destructive-based attacks, 2 of which, in the last 18 months alone, have successfully launched these attacks against companies in the West. What I mean about destructive-based attacks is not only do I come in, ransom you, get paid, but on my way out, I brick every single device and machine that I can get my hands on, that I've touched inside that process. So when you think about that, what's your reconstitution plan for that? How is your immutable backup going to help you there? How is your fallover going to help if your entire infrastructure, all your endpoints, are all just paperweights, ready to be sent out for recycling? Do you have a Connex box full of every router, switch, endpoint, server, et cetera you need? And even if you did, how long does it take to roll that out, stand everything back up inside your organization? And why is it? We talked about we're layering all these new solutions, we're spending more money, we find a weakness, we invest more inside that to try to cure that. But I'll just say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We still procure, configure, deploy, and maintain systems the exact same way. Whether it's when the system comes up for audit, that's when we look at it. When we come up for our renewal, we look at the system. When it's coming up for an ATO, et cetera, that's the only time we reinvest into these tools or peel back a layer so maybe we can see what we don't know. And I think what we're missing is actually a measurable way to determine the ROI on our cybersecurity spend, on our investments. Does the tool we have today, is it still effective? It was awesome 3 years ago. How does it match up with all my other new security tools that I bought? Are they working together? Are they working against each other? None of us want our cybersecurity tools in individual silos anymore. We want them to build on top of one another so the sum of all the parts are much greater than them separated. We all know no one's ever made a change inside an organization that didn't go in front of the change control board. That just doesn't happen. So you're also plagued, again, with the complex systems that we built to counteract all our challenges that are plaguing us. Now people are making small adjustments that no one's aware of. Those small adjustments start to compound on each other as we touch other systems, so on and so forth. Again, lessening our layers of security that we have and increasing the overall unknown inside our environment. This is where I really think the challenge is. Our entire industry needs to evolve. And I think we can actually learn a lot from the US military in those standpoints. Every day, the US military measures their effectiveness to respond to the threats that our nation faces. They drill every single day. They go to bed at the end of the day saying this is the best we possibly can be. They go through, they drill, and they test. When a gap's identified, they train to remediate that gap. If training won't remediate it, they procure a new weapon system, again, so they can respond to today's threats. Why don't we do that as cybersecurity professionals? Why don't we leave the day saying, hey, this is my tech stack, good, bad, we all have technical debt. It is the best cybersecurity thing that we've thrown together, and we've tuned it so we can protect against the ever-evolving threats that we face. I've squeezed every drop of performance. This is the best I can be, and tomorrow's a brand new day. So how do we evolve? How's that evolution kicked off? How do we move to the next state? Well, we need to move away from the defensive nature, which in my opinion is cybersecurity, where we're sitting back waiting for something to happen, and we start to be more offensive. What I mean by offensive is rather than waiting for someone else to exploit our vulnerabilities, we go in and we look for our weaknesses and we remediate it before we're going through a breach. Because I can promise you, I've never worked with a single company that did not improve their cybersecurity posture after a breach. 100%, you will remediate that weakness at some point at the company, so we might as well do it on our time versus the ticking gun of trying to get our systems back online. I think it's only then that we're finding these weaknesses and constantly evolving and improving our cybersecurity program through small iterative adjustments that we can actually keep up with the times and start to deliver constant ROI on all the money that we're spending inside of cyber. How can we improve these tools? Not only that individually, hey, can I do something to make these two tools work together better together? So what are our options? The normal go-to, if you're fortunate, you have the budget, you have the people, is you stand up a red team. So when you get the email, from the CEO or someone else, hey, how do we stack up against DarkSide, Log4j, Black Hat, et cetera? You're like, okay, not a problem. You grab your red team, go through reverse engineer those threats, and then you run it across your environment. You identify all your weaknesses, and then you work with your team to remediate it, run it again to see if you've actually fixed the problem. How long does that take? A day, a week, a month? Depends on a lot of factors. How good your team is, the size of the team, the threat, et cetera. But at the end of the day, that's a single threat. There are thousands out there. So that just isn't a sustainable way to stay on top and constantly improve our cybersecurity infrastructure. But there's another way, fortunately, is that we start to automate these attack signatures that our network faces, whether we like it or not, on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And then we start to get the actionable intelligence that we need to actually make educated choices on how to make refinements to make our cybersecurity posture better. And the great thing is we move past the very subjective nature of cybersecurity, where it isn't my opinion anymore. It's not Gartner's, it's not your team's, it's not the cybersecurity vendors. You know for a fact that you can go to your CEO, CFO, go to your board and say the only we haven't been ransomed yet is because Molly hasn't gotten the email yet. It's very powerful to have objective evidence to prove your point, to go institute change inside your environment. Here at Ridge, we started doing it about 3 years ago. And I can tell you the results were actually truly humbling. We are Zscaler Service Partner of the Year, CrowdStrike MSSP Fed Grant tenant, where we manage 500,000 endpoints or plus. We are the group that they come to when they're like, hey, we have someone rolling out a complex refresh of their entire tech stack. We need you to come in because you work with all these different security vendors to make them good, integrate them, work together. And here we were getting destroyed, getting killed. So we rolled up our sleeves, we started to look at things, looked at how all these threats actually operate, and then started making adjustments. We found very quickly that the best practice wasn't necessarily the best defense. And so we started to make our cybersecurity tools better. We started hardening our endpoints and everything. And at the end of the day, our posture at Ridge started to increase month over month. We were making small iterative changes, seeing if what we changed broke something or did we just end up better. And so at the end of the day, we ended up improving our cybersecurity posture, and we were able to help our customers at the end of the day improve theirs. Squeeze out all that performance, get that ROI, have that confidence, start to know what you don't know, and shine light on dark shadows. So the takeaway from this is we need to start looking at cybersecurity differently. And I hope you guys go back and say, hey, how can we make small iterative changes to our environment so we can start making small little measurable gains behind it? And stop hiding behind our shiny logos of, hey, we procured the best in the solution, best in the stack, because all of us, the vast majority of us, are targets of opportunity. We're facing the ransomware as a service platform, so on and so forth. They will get in wherever they can get in so they can end up getting paid. I think it's only then when we start validating all our security controls and improving our posture, are we going to start to be making those measurable gains where we push that breach out by months and years, and we continue to buy more time for our organization as cybersecurity gets stronger and stronger. What I talked about today is definitely something you can do in any point in journey inside of Zero Trust. And you can also do it if Zero Trust isn't your thing, you don't believe in the methodology, that's fine. I don't think there's a single thing when it comes to cybersecurity programs where we can't do that, a constant attack against your environment of every single known threat that exists to actually give you that actionable intelligence to make those refinements inside your organization. So I'll leave us with two quick stories around this because everyone loves stories, right? The first one is we were contracted to work with a company and assess their cybersecurity stack, make recommendations, improve their overall posture. So a couple weeks in, we deliver a report to them and say, hey, you're not blocking the 84% of threats that are hidden behind the SSL layer. Well, their response immediately was, that's impossible because we spend $500,000 a year on a tool that scans all the SSL traffic. Well, after a couple of meetings, going through stuff, we realized someone took the on button and moved it to the OFF position. So think about that. You're in a breach. You're going to go to the board. You're going to go to the CEO. You're going to go to the CFO and explain to them, I needed this so bad to protect our organization that you wrote a check to me for $500,000. And I needed it so bad, I left it in the off position. Imagine sitting in front of the insurance auditors and their forensic teams, explaining to them why on the questionnaire you said you had SSL inspection, but you turned it off. Depending on the size of your organization or what you deal with, imagine sitting down with the FBI and explaining to them, yeah, I had SSL inspection, yeah, we're spending lots of money on it, but it was turned off and I just didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. That's a position I don't want to ever be in. And then finally, the last story, which is probably the most interesting one. It's probably been about 3-4 months since this happened. But a customer came to us, a financial customer, and they're like, hey, we want you to help improve our cybersecurity posture, go through there, implement some tools, et cetera. And I was very hesitant on taking them on as a customer. And the reason is they had the best cybersecurity program I've ever seen in my entire life. And so I was hesitant there to say, I'm going to take your money, I'm going to take your check, and tell you that you're perfect. No one wants that. I definitely don't want that. That's an awkward conversation. But they're like, no, I think you can still have a little value, and if anything, the validation of what we're doing is going to be great. So about 2 weeks into the engagement, we produced them 2 reports. One report says, hey, all your Linux machines are protected against 76% of all threats out there. 76% is actually a really good number, in case anyone's wondering. It's the second report that I gave them that got me in trouble. So we passed that over to them. We said 0% of your Windows-based devices are being protected. That led to some emails that I can't read out in public, led to meetings I didn't want to be in. But when we were done, we all got together, we rolled up our sleeves, and we started to investigate what went on. And after lots of routine of going through different systems and everything, turned out someone somewhere at some point in time, I guess, was tasked on putting in maybe a bypass or something. Maybe it was a specific device, specific IP, but they just made it a little too broad, and it turned out they exposed every single Windows device that they had to the internet over the Palo. Remember, this was the best cybersecurity program I had ever seen that I did not want to take as a client because I thought I was going to provide them zero value. They had everything, policies, they had procedures, they had objective evidence proving that they're doing it. They had change control out the wazoo, like everything they did. They had the best tools, smart team, they had everything. But they didn't know what they didn't know. And fortunately, we were able to help them before they went through a breach scenario where they had to explain to their board, hey, we had all this, but we bypassed it all. You know, they didn't have to explain to the FBI and their insurance auditors. So think about that. What we're talking about today is something that we can all benefit from, whether we have a small budget and, you know, our team is tired, taxed out, we can still make small iterative improvements. Like this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So with that, thank you for everyone's time. I'll be hanging back here, love to talk to you guys. And come see us at the Ridge IT booth if you guys want to have more one-on-one discussions. Thank you.